It's the Daylight Midnight Show.
Hello and welcome to the Daylight Midnight Show. My name is Greg and I genuinely forgot to buy makeup when I was out this week, so I've used the same stuff as last week, I'm afraid, but I am quite pleased with what I've done with my eyes. I think I look very pretty this week. I'm wearing my glasses as well because I've noticed over the past couple of weeks I'm getting quite squinty because I can't read very well without them. I've tried without them to make it more of a connection, but then I end up looking like this, so you can't see my eyes anyway. Oh, and the hair and the beard, other way around, are staying as they are because I'm growing them a bit wild for a Halloween event, so you're just going to have to put up with that, I'm afraid. So having talked about my appearance, let's get on with the show by starting, as we will every show in Series 3, with a rhyming couplet. And this is a deja vu moment because you're getting the same rhyming couplet as last week because the same thing applies. So one of my house rules is that we have a strict time limit. Last week's show I overrun, so this week's just 8 minutes. I really do want to stick to my house rules where no episode of this show can be longer than 10 minutes because I don't want to waffle on too much and bore you. And if I do overrun, then that amount of time has to come off the next week's show. I explained this last week and then I overran anyway. So this week's show, let me just check I've done it right on the timer. It's definitely only going to be 8 minutes long. So we better crack on then. Timer is set. Let's set the quiz question. As you can see, DM, the Daylight Midnight Monkey, is guarding the expensive display cabinet, which is showing the answer to this week's quiz. So, what mystery object am I describing here? Bigger than a bulb, smaller than a barge, and you might well need one over winter. Now, the extra clue is because the parts of the clue start with the letter B, you know the answer also starts with the letter B. So, it's bigger than a bulb, it's smaller than a barge, and you might well need one this coming winter. Have a think about that. I'll give you the answer at the end of the show, and if you got the answer right, you award yourself a prize. So let's have a look inside the Cartoonimator then, which now has its own theme song. And I should play this on the ukulele, but I've cleverly forgotten to put my ukulele out, so we'll have to make do with the old guitar. The brown folder was great, but this could be much greater. Let's see what gets thrown out by Greg's Cartoonimator. Greg's Cartoonimator. That's better. We'll work on that as the show progresses. So the Cartoonimator then is what used to be the brown folder, and over the course of the week it will store up my thoughts and feelings and experiences and then do you a drawing that will show you what I've been up to in the past 7 days, and I'll explain what that drawing might mean. Oh, before we open it, I have written down some notes. Just a few things, because we're still getting into the swing of this series, I've been making a few notes as we've gone along for ways to improve things as we go along. So point number 1 this week is, I might bring back the brown folder, or a notebook or something similar. Both shows so far, I think, have been a bit flighty and scatty, where I'm kind of like pulling things out of my brain as we go along. When it was all written down, it had more of a focus and more of a structure, so I might go back to that. I've kind of done it this week, I guess, with this. I also thought I might write myself a weekly letter, and then I could post myself that letter and then open it live on the show and then just cover whatever is. That's something I'll think about as time goes on. But now I've written it down, you see, it provokes me to actually do it properly. Point number 2, I already don't like the new camera position, but I am going to stick to it for the rest of the series. My idea was that you could see more of the Door of Delights, but I have to turn around to use it. I have to turn around for that, and I think it takes away from a little personal connection one-to-one. And also, I think there's weird things happening with the sunlight coming through from the window behind the camera. It's doing weird things that it didn't do when the camera was over there. But again, that's something I'll think about over the coming week. Point number 3, do I do the to-dos that I didn't do? I had an undone to-do list from Series 2 where I kept saying these things that I was going to do in the show and not getting round to them. And this is things like launching the National Anti-Ironing League, starting the Bad Back Club, and I wrote them down and stuck them on the Door of Delights and never got round to doing them. So I'm wondering, just for, to tie a bow on everything, do I go back and revisit that list throughout Series 3? Again, that's something I'll think about over the coming week. And the final thing I've written down, my children are so used to me doing this stuff that when I say, I need to find some nail varnish remover, they don't even blink, they just say, yeah, okay. So with that, let's finally get inside the Cartoonimator and see what it has given us this week. And this week's drawing is this. It's a picture of a generic pot of noodles and a car. And I think it's really sweet that I still draw cars exactly the same way as I did when I was about 6 years old. And those wheels are not big enough to support the body of that car. So what does this represent? This represents a conversation that actually started quite a while ago. And like some of those weird conversations you have at a party or during the summer, it kind of escalated and went on and we kept going back to it. There was a point where I was discussing pot noodles, or you know, a generic pot of noodles. There's loads of them. They're not sponsored. So we were discussing pot noodles, which, by the way, as a side note, are a godsend when you've had a tooth removed and another tooth filled and can't eat properly, and you still want some hot food. Getting that sort of soft noodle with a bit of heat was lovely. But the discussion was, I said, out of nowhere, is there a less suitable food to eat while you're driving than a pot noodle? Because you need both hands to eat it, you've got to hold it, you've got to dig in with the fork. It's hot, so you can't hold it between your legs, and it's very sloppy as well, so if you have to break, it's going to go everywhere. My brother-in-law Colin, who is the guy that made, if you remember, if I can show you quickly, my wonderful Daylight Midnight Show glass, which is branded, and if I ever get round to sitting behind a desk again, which I do intend to do at some point, that will be on display all the time. But he said, well, surely the worst thing to try and eat while you're driving is a full roast dinner with gravy. And then somebody else that I was talking to said, like a bowl of tomato soup is just going to go everywhere and burn your legs. So I keep thinking about this, and I was going to do like a list of it, but then I thought, actually, this is an experiment that I could do. There is a piece of land near here that has a road, but the road is closed at one end, so it's not accessible to the public. I don't think, legally speaking, I should go on there, but I'm sure if we pick the right time of day, we might be able to get away with it. So my thought is that on a future episode of this show, or even as a standalone video, I will do this as an experiment. What is the worst food to try and eat while you're driving? I don't care if my car gets messy. It's on an old disused bit of track, and I've got like a tarpaulin sheet I could put over myself to catch the mess. So I would like your suggestions, either through comments or email me using the email address that comes up at the end of the show. What food should I try and eat while driving? And we'll come up, I'll do a definitive list, and we'll see how they come out, and I'll show you the results at some point in the future. So that is the result of that. So let's put that back up on there so the broken tooth can go, because I don't have a broken tooth anymore. It's been removed. And let's pin that on there. And I think this is looking a bit, let me just tidy that up, because that's looking a bit shabby. Can I just find my generic blue stuff that's quite tacky? No, I don't seem to have any. So things like this annoy me when they just don't quite look right. So if I just, there you are, that'll help for now. And I do have something else in here that was a follow-on from the discussion about the worst foods to eat. But I'm just going to check what the time is, because I want to take my time with this, and I really don't want to go over. Right, we've got 24 seconds left, so I'm going to save that for next week. I'm going to do a great 8 list of the best food combinations. So the best individual ingredients that you can put together to create a sort of twin taste. We'll do that next week. So let's do the outfit roulette then, using the randomness of the Rubik's Cube to determine what I'm going to be wearing next week. From column 1, it will be green, and green is, thank you, my dress. From column 2, we will be wearing whatever is also in green. That will be my suit jacket, so I'll have a dress on with the suit jacket over the top. And finally, from column 3, to accessorise all that, will be red. And red is sunglasses. That's my outfit for next week. Let's do the quiz reveal then, and if you got the answer right, you award yourself a prize. Bigger than a bulb, smaller than a barge, and you might well need one over winter. The correct answer this week was a bobblehead. I'll see you next week. Have a great 7 days.